The United Nations 27th Climate Change Conference taking place in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt has identified women and girls as effective, essential, and powerful leaders to address the climate change crisis. The UN Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed said despite their potential, women and girls remained largely undervalued and underestimated, with limited access to training and the technology necessary for effective adaptation to the impacts of climate change. And Yahya Jammeh has more details of that in this report.
Historically, climate change scientists, researchers, and policymakers have struggled with how to make the vital connections between gender, social equity, and climate change. According to the World Meteorological Organization, water stress and hazards like weathering droughts and the devastating floods are hitting African communities, economies, and ecosystems hard. High water stress is estimated to affect about 250 million people on the continent and displace up to 700 million by 2030. Amina Mohammed took the looming famine in the drought-stricken Horn of Africa as an example to explain how climate change can exacerbate water sucks, threatening the lives of hundreds of thousands of people and destabilizing communities, countries, and entire regions. She said that in Somalia, after 4 consecutive failed rainy seasons, 1/3 of livestock have perished since mid-2021. More than 1.2 million people affected by the drought are women and girls of reproductive age. While speaking at the Assembly on Monday on African women climate change realities, adaptation, mitigation, and responses in Sharm el-Sheikh, the UN Deputy Chief said that transition to a green economy is an opportunity to strengthen women's resilience to climate change.
The transition to a green economy provides a unique opportunity to reduce environmental risks and ecological scarcities while strengthening women's resilience to climate change. Women can accelerate action towards gender equality for green, resilient, and inclusive development. National green job strategies currently underway in several countries in the region must ensure women's active participation in decision-making forums and technical task forces. They must create institutional spaces for dialogue and policy solutions where women can bring their perspectives and expertise to designing gender-responsive economic policy, planning, and budgeting.
Gender inequality and climate change pose grave threats to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Meanwhile, in an interview, Mary Robinson, former Irish president and now chair of the Elders, reiterated the need to work towards climate financing that targets the womenfolk given their tremendous contributions in building communities.
There's a promise to double adaptation climate finance by 2025. That's extraordinarily important to women because they're doing so much on the ground to build communities. We're now talking about loss and damage. The loss and damage suffered by women and girls is disproportionately, terrible. So again, we need to have, yes, a mosaic of approaches, but we need a financial facility, hopefully at this COP, that the elders are very strongly calling for.
The climate crisis is not gender neutral. Women and girls experience the greatest impacts of climate change, which amplifies existing gender inequalities and poses unique threats to their livelihoods, health, and safety. According to the World, women depend more on yet have less access to natural resources. In many regions, women bear a disproportionately responsibility for securing food, water, and fuel. UNDP projections indicate that about 90 million women in Africa could be food-starved by 2050. Reporting for Eyeafrica News, I am Yahya Jammeh.